The massive crystalline ship drifted through the empty void, its once bright hull now flickering with dying light. Admiral Veltara pressed her long fingers against the cold viewing window and watched another distant star fade into darkness. The star had been burning for millions of years, but the Corvani had drained it dry in just a few decades. Another one gone, she whispered to herself. Her voice carried sadness that had grown heavier with each passing day. Behind her, the bridge of the eternal dawn buzzed with quiet activity. Corvani officers moved between control panels, their tall, crystal-like bodies casting weak shadows in the dimming light. Once, their people had been proud and powerful. They had traveled from star to star, taking what they needed to fuel their great empire. Now they were dying, and they had no one to blame but themselves. Commander NYXL approached carefully. His skin, which should have glowed with health, looked pale and tired. "Admiral, I have the latest reports from the outer colonies." Veltara turned away from the window. She knew the news would be bad, but she had to hear it. "Tell me." 17 more star systems went dark this cycle. The colonies there had to evacuate before their power failed completely. Most of the ships made it to the core worlds, but... He paused, struggling with the words. "Admiral, even our core worlds are starting to fail. Our scientists say we have maybe 50 more cycles before everything shuts down." 50 cycles. Veltara had lived for over 300 cycles, and in all that time, the Corvani Empire had seemed unstoppable. They had built cities inside hollow planets. They had created technology that could move energy across entire galaxies. They had conquered space itself. But they had made one terrible mistake. They had never learned when to stop taking. For thousands of years, the Corvani had found a star, drained all its energy, and moved on to the next one. They told themselves the universe was infinite, that there would always be another star to harvest. They had been wrong. The stars they had drained were not coming back, and now the remaining stars were burning out faster than anyone had expected. What about the emergency plans? Veltara asked, though she already knew the answer. NYXL's light dimmed even more. The Council is discussing them now. Some want to start consuming inhabited worlds. They say if we drain the life energy from populated planets, we might buy ourselves a few more cycles. The thought made Veltara feel sick. The Corvani had never directly attacked other living beings before. They had always been destroyers of empty things, dead moons, lifeless asteroids, uninhabited stars. To start killing entire civilizations just to extend their own lives by a few years seemed like crossing a line they could never uncross. "There has to be another way," she said firmly. "Actually," NYXL said, and for the first time in months, his voice carried a tiny spark of hope. "There might be." Our long-range sensors picked up something unusual in the Outer Rim territories. A small solar system with a blue planet. The energy readings are strange. Veltara raised an eyebrow. "Strange how?" "The planet is generating massive amounts of organized energy. Complex patterns, controlled flows, nothing like the chaotic emissions we usually see from primitive worlds. But here is the really strange part. All of this energy seems to be contained within just one star system. They are not expanding. They are not taking energy from other stars. Somehow, they are creating enough power for their entire civilization without leaving their home system." This was indeed strange. Every spacefaring race the Corvani had ever encountered followed the same pattern. They used up the resources on their home world, then spread out to take resources from other worlds. It was the natural way of things. How could any advanced civilization survive without expansion? "How advanced are they?" Veltara asked. "Advanced enough to have fusion technology, complex communication networks, and what appears to be a unified planetary government. But Admiral, they seem to be deliberately limiting themselves. They have the technology to travel to other stars, but they choose not to. We do not understand why." Veltara walked back to the viewing window. In the distance, she could see the faint lights of Corvani colony ships, refugees from dead worlds looking for somewhere new to call home. Soon, there would be nowhere left for them to go. Unless. "Set a course for this blue planet," she ordered. "Take a small fleet. Nothing too threatening, but enough ships to defend ourselves if needed." "Admiral, what if they are hostile? What if they see us as invaders?" Veltara looked at her reflection in the dark window. Her once bright crystal skin was now dull and gray. Her people were dying, and she was running out of options. But maybe, just maybe, these strange beings who had learned to live within their limits might know something the Corvani had forgotten. "Then we will face whatever comes," she said quietly. "Because right now, they are our only hope for tomorrow." The eternal dawn turned toward the distant blue world, carrying with it the desperate wishes of a dying empire. Lieutenant Jiwon Kim stared at her computer screen, rubbing her tired eyes. She had been working the night shift at the Seoul Space Center for 3 days straight, ever since the strange objects had appeared at the edge of the solar system. The coffee next to her keyboard had gone cold hours ago, but she was too focused to notice. The objects were huge, bigger than any spacecraft humans had ever built. They looked like they were made of crystal or glass, with complex patterns of light flowing through them. But something was wrong. The lights were getting dimmer each hour, and the energy readings kept dropping. Dr. Park, she called across the room to her supervisor. The alien ships are sending another transmission. Dr. Minho Park hurried over to her station, his shoes squeaking on the polished floor. He was a calm man who rarely got excited, but Jiwon could see worry lines around his eyes. Same pattern as before? Yes, but weaker. Much weaker. Jiwon pointed at the numbers on her screen. Whatever power source they are using, it is failing fast. At this rate, their ships will go completely dark in less than a week. Dr. Park frowned. Any word from the military? General Kang is moving defense platforms into position around Earth. He thinks they might be planning an invasion. Jiwon switched to another screen showing the positions of human warships. But sir, look at these power readings. These ships are not preparing to attack anyone. They are dying. 3 floors above them, in the emergency meeting room, Minister Yoonji Lee sat at a long table surrounded by Earth's top leaders. General Kang was speaking loudly, his voice filled with anger and fear. We know nothing about these creatures, the general said, pointing at images of the alien ships on the wall screen. For all we know, this could be a trick. They show up looking helpless, we let our guard down, and then they attack. But what if it is not a trick? Minister Lee asked quietly. What if they really are in trouble? Then that is their problem, not ours, General Kang replied. Our job is to protect Earth, not help random aliens. Dr. Park spoke up from his seat near the end of the table. Minister, with respect, I think we are looking at this wrong. These beings have technology far beyond ours. Their ships are massive, their energy systems are incredibly advanced. If they wanted to hurt us, they probably could have done it already. Or maybe they are too weak to attack, General Kang said. Which means this is our chance to destroy them before they recover. Minister Lee felt sick at the thought. She had spent her whole career working for peace between nations. The idea of attacking helpless beings, even alien ones, went against everything she believed in. What if we tried to communicate with them first, she suggested. Really communicate, not just send basic math equations. What if we offered to help? The room went silent. Everyone stared at her as if she had suggested jumping off a cliff. Help them? General Kang asked in disbelief. Minister, they are aliens. We do not know what they want or what they are capable of. Exactly, Minister Lee said. We do not know. So maybe we should find out before we start shooting. 2 days later, Captain Sumin Choi sat in the pilot seat of the shuttle Harmony, watching the alien mothership grow larger through the front window. The ship was beautiful in a strange way, like a cathedral made of living crystal. But she could see that Dr. Park had been right. The lights inside the crystal walls were dim and flickering, like candles about to go out. This is either very brave or very stupid, muttered her co-pilot, Lieutenant Junho Park. Maybe both, Captain Choi replied with a nervous smile. She opened the communication channel and began transmitting. First came simple mathematical sequences, prime numbers, basic equations, things any intelligent species should understand. Then came the message that Dr. Park and his team had spent hours preparing, translated into what their computers thought might be the alien language. Unknown vessels, this is Captain Sumin Choi of the Earthship Harmony. We have observed that your power systems are failing. We offer assistance if you need it. For several long minutes, there was only silence. Captain Choi began to wonder if the aliens had not received the message, or if they simply did not understand it. Then the reply came, and it made everyone on the Harmony stop breathing. The voice was deep and musical, filled with a sadness that seemed to echo across the emptiness of space. When the translation came through their computers, the words were simple but heartbreaking. Small beings of the blue world, we thank you for your kindness. But how does one help those who are already dead? We are the Corvani, and we have destroyed our own future. Soon our ships will go dark, and our people will join the silence of space. Captain Choi looked at her crew. They all had the same expression, a mixture of surprise and pity. These were not invaders. These were refugees, lost and dying far from home. She opened the channel again. Corvani ship, this is Captain Choi. You are not dead yet, and neither are we. Perhaps we can figure out a solution together. The cargo bay of the Harmony had never looked so strange. Captain Sumin Choi had ordered all the supply boxes moved to one side to make room for the meeting. Emergency lights had been set up around a simple metal table, and the air recycling system hummed loudly in the background. It was not the most impressive place for first contact with an alien species, but it would have to do. Dr. Hyung Minute stood near the table, checking his tablet for the 100th time. His hands were shaking slightly, though he tried to hide it. As Earth's top expert on alien contact protocols, he had spent years preparing for this moment. But all his theories and practice scenarios felt useless now that it was actually happening. Transport beginning, announced the voice from the Corvani ship through the communication system. The air in the center of the cargo bay began to shimmer like heat waves rising from hot pavement. Slowly, a figure began to appear. First came a faint outline, then more solid details, until finally Admiral Veltara stood before them in her full glory. She was nearly 3 meters tall, with skin that looked like it was made of living crystal. Light moved through her body in slow, beautiful patterns, though the light was much dimmer than it should have been. Her face was alien but somehow elegant, with large eyes that seemed to hold the weight of centuries. "I am Admiral Veltara of the Corvani Empire," she said, her voice carrying easily across the room despite the universal translator device clipped to Dr. Min's shirt. "I thank you for allowing this meeting." Dr. Minute stepped forward, trying not to show how nervous he was. "I am Dr. Hyung Minute, representing Earth. This is Captain Choi and Engineer Dane Yo. We are honored to meet you." Admiral Veltara studied them with curious eyes. "Your species puzzles us, Dr. Minute. Our sensors show that you have achieved controlled fusion reactions and complex energy distribution across your entire planet. Your technology is impressive for beings of your size. Yet you remain on only one world. Why do you not expand to other stars? Why do you not take what you need from the galaxy around you?" The question caught Dr. Minute off guard. "Take what we need? Admiral, we have found that taking everything often leads to having nothing left. We prefer to use what we have wisely and make it last." Engineer Yo stepped closer, her tablet ready to record everything. "Admiral, may we ask about your power systems? Perhaps if we understand how they work, we can find a way to help." Admiral Veltara's light dimmed even more, and for a moment she looked incredibly tired. "You may see our engineering sections, though I fear there is little hope left." An hour later, Engineer Yo found herself in the most amazing place she had ever seen. The Corvani engineering bay was like being inside a living jewel. Massive crystal formations grew up from the floor and down from the ceiling, all connected by streams of flowing light. But the light was weak and getting weaker. Her Corvani guide, an engineer named KYL Ren, led her between the crystal formations. "These are our power matrices," he explained through his own translator device. "For thousands of years, they have channeled energy from the cores of stars. We would drain a star completely, store its energy in these crystals, and move on to the next star." Yo ran her scanner over one of the crystal formations. The readings were incredible. These crystals can store and move massive amounts of energy across huge distances. "This technology is amazing." "Amazing, but dying," KYL Ren said sadly. "The stellar cores we harvested are burning out much faster than we expected. Soon the crystals will have nothing to channel, and our civilization will end." Yo studied her scanner readings, her mind racing. An idea was forming, something crazy but possible. KYL Ren, what if instead of taking all the energy from dead stars, we fed these crystals with small amounts of fresh energy? Constantly renewed energy? KYL Ren's optical sensors flared brighter. "Your fusion reactors, they could provide steady power?" "More than steady," Yo said, getting excited. "They could provide power forever. Human fusion reactors are designed to run for decades without stopping. If we could connect them to your crystal matrices." She pulled out her tablet and began sketching rapidly. "Look, what if we built a hybrid system? Human fusion cores providing constant, renewable energy, channeled through your crystal technology. The crystals could distribute the power across your entire fleet." KYL Ren studied the rough drawings, his whole body beginning to glow brighter with interest. This could work. Your small reactors could power our large systems." "Exactly. And we could learn from each other. Your crystals could help us distribute energy more efficiently on Earth, while our fusion technology could keep your people alive." For the next 3 weeks, teams of human and Corvani engineers worked together around the clock. The language barriers were difficult at first, but mathematics and engineering diagrams worked the same for both species. Slowly, they began to understand each other. The breakthrough came on a Tuesday morning. Engineer Yo and KYL Ren had connected a small human fusion reactor to a section of Corvani crystal matrix in the test lab. When they activated the system, the crystals came alive with bright, steady light for the first time in months. The crystal formations began to sing. It was a low, musical sound that filled the entire engineering bay. Other Corvani engineers stopped their work and stared in amazement. Some of them began to cry tears that looked like liquid starlight. "It works," KYL Ren whispered, his voice full of wonder. "The crystals are healthy again." Within hours, the news had spread throughout both fleets. The first hybrid power system was online and stable. The dying Corvani ships were beginning to heal, and humanity had gained access to technology that could change everything. For the first time in generations, both species dared to hope for tomorrow. The first Corvani colony ship to receive the new hybrid power system was the Crystal Gardens. For 6 months, it had been drifting through space with only emergency power, its 10,000 passengers slowly freezing as the ship's systems failed one by one. When Engineer Yo's fusion crystal reactor came online, the entire ship blazed back to life like a star being born. Captain Jihoon Nam watched from the bridge of the Earth monitoring station as the colony ship's lights returned. Through the communication channel, he could hear Corvani voices singing with joy. Children who had never seen their ship's full glory were seeing it for the first time, running through corridors that now glowed with warm, steady light. But the Crystal Gardens was just the beginning. Word of the human-Corvani partnership spread across the galaxy faster than light itself. Every species had their own methods of long-distance communication, and all of them carried the same impossible message. The humans of the small blue world had found a way to create unlimited energy, and they were sharing it with anyone who needed help. Minister Sun Wu-han stood before the largest gathering in United Nations history. Representatives from every country on Earth filled the assembly hall, while millions more watched the broadcast from around the world. The weight of the decision they had to make pressed down on everyone in the room. "In the past 3 months, Minister Han said, her voice calm despite the enormous pressure, we have received requests for assistance from 37 different alien species. Some arrive as refugees, fleeing dead worlds and dying stars. Others come as potential partners, offering their own knowledge in exchange for our fusion technology." She paused, looking around the room at faces filled with hope and fear in equal measure. "And some," she continued quietly, "may be coming as conquerors who see our technology as something to be taken by force rather than earned through cooperation." Above Earth's atmosphere, the construction of humanity's most ambitious project was already underway. The Terran Energy Station stretched across 50 kilometers of space, a massive framework designed to house hundreds of fusion crystal hybrid reactors. Project Director Tail Jung floated in his work suit between the construction zones, coordinating teams that included humans, Corvani, and members of a dozen other species who had arrived seeking help. "Section 7 is complete," reported his assistant through the radio. The Helix engineers finished the crystal matrix installation ahead of schedule. Jung smiled inside his helmet. The Helix were a fascinating species, beings who looked like living metal sculptures and could shape technology with their thoughts. They had arrived 2 weeks ago in ships that were falling apart, their homeworld consumed by a black hole. In exchange for fusion technology, they had offered their incredible engineering abilities. "What about the Morphic team in Section 12? Jung asked. "Still working on the energy distribution network. They say they need another day to make sure the connections are perfect." The Morphics were even stranger than the Helix. They could change their physical form to match any task, becoming living tools when needed. Their ships had been damaged in a war with another species, but their knowledge of energy networks was beyond anything humans had ever imagined. Jung looked out at the growing station and felt a mix of pride and worry. Each new species brought incredible knowledge and abilities, but they also brought their own problems and conflicts. Keeping everyone working together was like trying to conduct an orchestra where every musician played a different type of instrument. The real test came when the Drakmor fleet arrived. Captain Jihu Kwon was on duty at the outer defense platform when the sensors picked up the massive ships approaching Earth's solar system. The Drakmor vessels were built for war, dark metal hulls covered in weapon ports, engines that burned with angry red light. Intelligence reports said the Drakmor were a warrior culture whose empire had collapsed when they consumed their own homeworlds trying to power their war machine. "Incoming transmission," reported his communications officer. The face that appeared on the main screen was terrifying. War leader Thurok looked like he had been carved from stone and rage, with scars covering his gray skin and eyes that burned with desperate fury. "Humans of the blue world," Thurok's voice boomed through the speakers, "we have heard of your fusion technology. Our people are dying, our ships are failing, our worlds are ash. Give us your power systems now, or we will take them by force. You have one day to decide." The tension in the command center was thick enough to cut. Everyone knew the Drakmor fleet could probably destroy Earth's defenses, but they also knew that giving in to threats would only invite more aggression from other desperate species. Captain Quan made a decision that changed everything. "War Leader Thurok," he said calmly, "we understand your people are suffering. But we will not respond to threats. However, we make you the same offer we make to everyone who comes here seeking help." Thurok's eyes narrowed dangerously. "What offer?" "Take our engineers. Take our technology. Take our fusion reactors and crystal matrices. But also take our teachers, our farmers, our philosophers. Learn not just how to create power, but how to use it wisely. Learn how to build instead of just taking. Your people can have unlimited energy, but only if they are willing to help others achieve the same thing." For a long moment, Thurok stared at the screen in silence. Then, incredibly, the war leader began to laugh. It was not a happy sound, but it was not entirely bitter either. "You would trust us with your most precious technology?" "We would trust you to become better than you were," Captain Quan replied. "The question is, do you trust yourselves?" 3 months later, the first Drakmor colony powered by fusion crystal technology came online. Their warriors had become engineers, their weapons had become tools, and their empire had become part of something larger. The network was growing. The new dawn floated in the darkness between galaxies, its hull gleaming with the soft light of 1,000 different technologies. Captain Nari Park walked through the ship's main corridor, marveling at how much had changed in just 5 years. The walls were decorated with art from dozens of different worlds, Corvani crystal sculptures that sang when touched, helix metal paintings that shifted and changed, morphic designs that seemed to move with a life of their own. She passed the ship's main engineering section where Chief Engineer Spiral Dancer was checking the fusion crystal power cores. Spiral Dancer belonged to the helix species, their body looking like a beautiful metal tree with branches that moved like liquid silver. They had joined the crew after their homeworld was saved by the Terran Energy Collective, and had become one of humanity's closest friends among the stars. "Status report, Chief," Captain Park asked as she entered the engineering bay. "All fusion cores running perfectly, Captain," Spiral Dancer replied, their voice sounding like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "The crystal matrices are showing perfect harmony. We are ready for the transgalactic jump whenever you give the order." Captain Park nodded and continued her inspection. The ship was humanity's most ambitious project yet, a vessel designed to carry the Terran Energy Collective's message to distant galaxies where other civilizations might be struggling in darkness, just as the Corvani had been struggling when they first arrived at Earth. On the bridge, First Officer Veltara was studying the navigation charts with Lieutenant Gyunho Lee. The former Corvani admiral had become one of Captain Park's most trusted friends over the years. Her crystal skin now glowed with healthy light, powered by the hybrid reactors that had saved her people from extinction. "Captain," Veltara said as Park approached, "we have identified 17 potential target galaxies where our long-range sensors detect signs of energy crisis. Dying stars, collapsing civilizations, species that might be facing the same problems we once did." Lieutenant Lee looked up from his calculations. "The journey to the nearest galaxy will take approximately 6 months, even with our advanced engines. But once we arrive, we should be able to establish communication with any intelligent species in the area." Captain Park looked out through the main view screen at the distant spiral of light that was their destination. Somewhere in that galaxy, alien beings might be watching their own stars die, just as the Corvani had done. They might be fighting wars over the last remaining energy sources, or making the same mistakes that had nearly destroyed Veltara's people. "What about the supply situation?" Park asked. "We carry enough materials to build 50 fusion crystal hybrid reactors," reported Lieutenant Lee. "Plus complete technical documentation, cultural exchange programs, and everything needed to establish a permanent embassy. If we find species that want to join the collective, we can help them get started immediately." Through the view screen, Captain Park could see Earth in the distance, a small blue dot surrounded by the lights of hundreds of space stations and ships. The Terran Energy Station had grown into a massive structure that could be seen from the outer planets, its fusion reactors providing power to over 200 different species. Earth had become the diplomatic heart of the galaxy, a place where former enemies worked together and shared their knowledge freely. The transformation had not been easy. There had been conflicts between species with different values and goals. Some civilizations had tried to steal the fusion technology instead of earning it through cooperation. A few had even attempted to attack Earth directly, thinking they could take by force what humans offered freely to everyone. But each challenge had only made the collective stronger. The Drakmor warriors had become some of the most dedicated peacekeepers in the galaxy. The Corvani had shared their crystal technology with species they had once considered enemies. The Helix and Morphic had worked together to create engineering marvels that neither could have achieved alone. Admiral, Captain Park said, using Veltara's old title even though she now served as a diplomat rather than a military commander, when your people first arrived at our solar system, did you ever imagine it would lead to this? Veltara's light pulsed in what Captain Park had learned was the Corvani equivalent of a smile. When I first saw your small blue world, Captain, I thought we were looking at another primitive species that might have resources we could use to extend our lives for a few more years. I never dreamed that you would teach us the difference between surviving and truly living. The ship's communication system chimed with an incoming message from Earth. Minister Sun Wuhan appeared on the main screen, her face showing the mixture of pride and worry that had become familiar to anyone involved in humanity's expanding role in galactic affairs. Captain Park, this is Earth Control. We have just received confirmation that 3 more species have joined the collective this week. The Tentari from the Outer Spiral, the Stone Singers from the Core Worlds, and surprisingly, the Void Walkers who have been isolated for over 1,000 years. Captain Park felt a warm glow of satisfaction. Each new species that joined the collective meant more knowledge shared, more problems solved, and more hope for the future. We are ready to begin the transgalactic mission, Minister, she reported. The new dawn will carry our message to distant shores where other species wait in darkness, not knowing that help is coming. Safe travels, Captain. Remember, you carry not just our technology, but our values. Show them that the greatest strength comes not from taking everything you can, but from sharing what you have. The new dawn engaged its transgalactic drive, and Captain Park watched the stars stretch into lines of light as they jumped toward their distant destination. Behind them, Earth continued to shine like a beacon in the darkness, proof that sometimes the smallest lights could illuminate the entire universe. In the months that followed, humanity's greatest gift spread to 3 entire galaxies, not conquest or domination, but simple hope, freely given to anyone willing to accept it.